It was so nice to just regroup, speak to Dylan, calm down after yesterday's stream. Um, Today's going to be a little bit more relaxed. Guys, this is eVTOL Weekly, the official eVTOL Weekly 22. My name's Ian. I am one of the Hustle Brothers here. I'm here with my two co-hosts. We have Mark Berry and Dylan Rogers. How are we getting on, guys?
Getting along great.
It's nice. It's a nice Friday. It's enjoyable. Sun's out for me. So, yeah, it's a great day and great to get up with you guys and talk with you guys and chat with the community. It's going to be a fun day.
Yeah, so really yesterday, I think it was all that panic around that ACHR lawsuit we were speaking about, and it got very negative very quickly. And I think, do you know what? That's my fault. I get very emotional, which is not a good trait to have in the stock market, but I will always come on here and say exactly how I feel. But after speaking to you today, Dylan, we've sort of calmed down a little bit around that ACHR fear that we had. I haven't sold anything, but do you want to talk us through a little bit about, are you worried about this upcoming lawsuit that's going to trial, or is it just enough?
I don't want to be a blind investor, and I would never want to lead anybody down with false information. So if you ask the question, am I worried about the lawsuit? I wouldn't say that I'm worried. I don't think it's anything that ACHR can't overcome. Not the first fact that has had a lawsuit filed against them. Not saying it's eye to eye. For some reason, it reminded me back in the October, November, December range when there was a lawsuit filed against Tesla. And the shareholder had about 10 shares. So not saying that's equatable to the position or the person who, or the people that did take on the lawsuit filed in Delaware for this one, but just to kind of have the knowledge that these lawsuits can come about. And if they do get far enough across the legal table, that they may make it to the headline news as well. So I do think it's something obviously to be aware of as the ACHR investor, but I do have to kind of look into what allegations they're really trying to leverage against ACHR. And, I think we're still in development phase. For me, I feel like for me, Adam's been very transparent that we're still in a development phase with Midnight. We're going through testing phases, no promised dates of TIA certs or commercial applications. And maybe we'll touch on this a little bit later too. Something I was thinking of is, I feel like a word that I've been hearing lately, and anybody correct me if you feel that I'm wrong on this, is when Adam's been talking about 2028 and the Olympics, I feel like the word I've been hearing a lot has been showcase. Now, to me, if I define showcase, that's me showing off my product, maybe showing the capabilities of what it can do. So I haven't necessarily heard any specific numbers on how many aircrafts are going to be in a commercial application by then. I know that there's been talk about how many we can get manufactured and the ramp up production numbers we're looking to ramp up to get manufactured. But I guess I'm leaning a little bit, again, on listening to the verbiage from the CEO. And if we're looking at 2028 being a showcase for these aircraft, for me, we're still in development phase and not financial advice. But for me, I kind of digested the news. I took a few minutes to see what the market was interested in doing with the news as well. Being a Friday, it's an options day. So an easy day to bump down, excuse me, bump down the stock price and push some of the in the money options out of the money with some extra shorts put on it. ACHR held pretty stable at its support lines around the $10.50 to $11 ranges, and I took a small nibble and got some more. And again, not financial advice, only because of my confidence in where ACHR is at right now in their personal stage of development. But yeah, any thoughts from you guys on it?
Mark, after sleeping on it, how are you feeling now?
I'm always going to repeat the same thing. first of all, this isn't Archer's first lawsuit either. I did a quick search, and if you go back to 2021 to 2023, Archer and Whisk got into it, in the court as well, and they settled outside, and so it didn't go to trial. And I think you're gonna see this happening in this development space where you have competing companies. But you also have, and there's a lot of interests, individual interests too, and that interest is shareholders. And if they feel that they're misrepresented, they can take a case. I think it's kind of a nothing burger at this point. If anything, Archer I think Archer probably has a pretty good defense of, hey, we're in development, so we can make. We can make claims. I want to see results, but also things happen all the time in the development process or in development programs where you just things get delayed, or the claims that you originally made aren't reality 6 to 18 months down the road as you get further along in development. So, I think it's not like the stock price has really reacted to it a whole lot in the last few days. And both stocks have run up so much. So it's kind of like, well, if you were holding at the 5s and 6s just a couple of months ago, you're still like, well, I got plenty of margin to not bail on this thing. So, and to that point, Joby almost touched an all-time high again today. So me personally, a week ago, I completely exited out. I took my profits and held out of Joby, at least. I own some of Hover at this point, but I was kind of actually hoping Joby'd pull back to the 13s or the 12s so I could get back in, but I may be having to wait this one out now. So, or this wave keeps building.
Then I'm going to jump straight back to the comments here. So we have Gia Yves. So gotta be with you too, my friend. What salesman wouldn't hype his own product and stick a shiny brochure in front of you? Besides, what corporation hasn't been sued at least once in its life? Do you know what? I was speaking to Francisco Ramirez yesterday prior to the Rocket Lab stream, and Redwire actually had a similar lawsuit put against them, and that was settled for $8 million. Now, look, we don't want to see Archer paying out the likes of $8 million, but if this gets settled for the likes of $8 million, you won't hear a thing about it again.
Yeah.
Should I stay with Archer? Christian White says, look, we are not financial advisors, so I'm not going to tell you whether you should or you shouldn't. I haven't sold. I'm sort of waiting it out to see, am I going to add any more? With the eVTOLs at the moment, I feel like we are very frothy. So I'm just happy where I'm sitting. I really want to join you, Mark, and jump into Harper again. We will be having Brandon on. I have reached back out to Horizon Aircraft to get them back on. I'm not going to give his name out, but the investor relations is on holiday at the moment, so I should hear back on Monday.
Yeah, I will say to Christian's question again, we're not financial advisors, and this isn't financial advice, but the eVTOL space there is a incoming tide, and I think all ships are going to rise with the rising of the tide. This is a brand new industry, and the world has no clue what's coming at it. And I attribute it to almost like we're 1993 to 1995, and we've got flip phones, but there's this guy at Apple that's developing an iPhone, and there's a BlackBerry coming. And I think that there's a whole new industry in human mobility that's coming. So I think if you get in now and you're along, you're not going to lose. That's my take on it. Yeah, you throw throw a dart at the board and you're going to be a winner no matter what.
And I agree with that too. And again, we're always going to say this is not financial advice. To the commenter, I would definitely trust your heart, trust your gut, and what you're feeling with it. But to remember that we're, like Mark said, we're sorry, this is gonna be a tough one, in an emerging industry, and we're really at the beginning of the development and production of these aircraft, with the opportunity to come to market, knowing that it's going to be a lot of market survey flights before we get into commercial operations. So another thing, and just kind of wanted to throw this in there, it was just kind of a personal note I took where, I know that for me, I can see him as the Archer Bull, and there can be some that are more Team Joby. But really, I cheer on any accomplishment from either company or Eve or a Beta in this industry. I really think any advancement or just really any forward step. So with Joby having the piloted flight in Dubai, I'm not necessarily going to knock Archer because they haven't piloted in Dubai yet. I'm going to clap for Joby that they have crossed that line and made that accomplishment. So, just remember we're very early in this. And again, just something that I quickly thought, if you go back to the last quarter and the guidance that Adam gave on the piloted flight, he did say in the next few days, which took a bit more days than we did expect for that to come. But he did not say that we were going to see a piloted VTOL flight. It just kind of hit me a few minutes ago when I was talking with the guys. So, and I guess that's for anybody to digest, of whether that's Adam pulling, the sheet over the eyes and kind of hiding behind the words of a piloted flight and then only doing a CTOL versus the VTOL, or him, being honest that we're going to see a piloted flight and us as investors or maybe the analysts assuming, being the eVTOL industry, that was going to be an eVTOL takeoff and landing. And maybe curious, Mark, do you find that there's any benefit to a CTOL landing to show the capabilities of the landing gear being able to take on that sort of land as opposed to a vertical land? I'm just curious on that.
You want to demonstrate it, but
okay.
Again, like Beta is changing their direction where they just want to have an electric aircraft that's going to be CTOL, and at that point, you're just building an airplane, and the power plant is different. The power plant is electric compared to an internal combustion engine. So I don't. You can show that it works, but truth be told, a helicopter or a Joby or an eVTOL landing vertically, if you come down, if you come down and your vertical component is greater than typically is going to be greater than what it is when you flare in a regular airplane. So you're going to design the landing gear to its worst case scenario, and a lot of times those designs are actually how the landing gear should be designed. It's all a function of how much energy does that landing gear need to absorb to protect the occupants inside. And the FAA has very defined criteria of what that needs to be. And it's actually derived from just what the human back can take, how much compression you can take, and how much energy when you go from that vertical to a stop. And in a lot of times with landing gear design, it's okay, can the landing gear take up the shock? And then if you go more, can the landing gear fail and still take up the shock? And then if you land even harder to where the landing gear fails and then can your seats fail? And can the structure actually fail? So everything is, can you compress everything down and the occupant's still inside? Pretty much just be like, well, that was a shitty landing, but we're walking away from it. And at the end of the day, any they always say in aviation, any landing you can walk away from is a good one. So aircraft development, a part of aircraft development, and when we talk about like means of compliance, and when you talk about, you know, the going to the FAA with your design and saying, all right, this is our design for our landing gear and how the airplane will withstand a crash worthiness test. And you can have multiple methods. You could say like, yeah, they're sitting on a solid seat and the seat doesn't give at all. You know, it's just a straight up solid seat, but the landing gear will take up all of that energy. So you say, okay, and then you go and you demonstrate that. But whether you're doing that in a conventional landing configuration or you're doing it in a vertical landing configuration, taking up that energy is going to be the same. So
okay, good. Thank you. That's great. Yeah, thanks, Mike.
And then jumping back to the chats, we have Christian has some Hover and sold as Joby. Then Christian said it's the future. Just think Denver to Aspen in minutes.
Yeah.
The defensive contracts with Anduril and Palantir is what got me holding Archer. Well, my guy, within the last 2 hours, the MDA dropped a draft solicitation for a $151 billion multi-award for a multi-domain missile defense system. So think about the Golden Dome. And that's what I believe has held up Archer today. The likes of Anduril and Palantir being front runners for these contracts.
But let's not confuse this though too. Depending on what that contract is, if it's for missile defense, that's going to be outside of the purview of an eVTOL. So, but there will be other contracts. There will be, there could come out of a request for proposal or a request for quote for, all right, we want to have, we're going to do an award for $200 million, which is, instead of doing helicopters now, we're transferring those funds to eVTOLs. And the military has, whether it be, and that can be any branch of the military. Right now, we know the Air Force is testing Jobys, but that's the beauty of eVTOLs is they can be used across the 4 different services. And I mean, for all intents and purposes, you could put pontoons on an eVTOL and the thing can go land in the water and go pick people up in the water. It can be done. It's not hard. Right. I mean, you could make a Joby or an Archer amphibious just by putting pontoons on it.
I want to debunk a bit of information I've read too recently about someone said in the comments eVTOLs won't be able to fly in the rain. Mark, can you debunk that, please?
Yeah. So it depends on if if it's a VFR certified aircraft. VFR, it stands for Visual Flight Rule. When you become a private pilot, your first private pilot license, your rating is a VFR rated pilot, which means there's rules on how close you can fly to clouds. And there are rules to the visibility. So, and it's a bit of a gray area because you can fly through rain and still be able to see far enough to meet the visibility requirements, but you can't fly through clouds. Now, to make a platform IFR rated is not difficult. That is purely just a function of the avionics that are on the aircraft, and you certify those avionics to fly IFR flights within the UAS system. So it's not difficult to go from a VFR platform to an IFR platform. And flying through the rain, I don't think they'll have a problem flying through clouds, flying through the rain, being an IFR platform. I don't see that being a problem at all. And I will debunk that. I think these aircraft will be IFR rated and will have IFR capabilities. So they will be able to fly through most weather. What you don't want to fly through is a thunderstorm. You don't want to fly, and you definitely, unless it's FAA certified. And Brandon spoke on that when he talked about Hover, that their aircraft will have FAA certification. FAA is flight into known icing, and that is your next set of weather. But typically, I mean, you can plan when there's a winter storm coming, and you fly around the winter storm. The aircraft I fly, that I own and fly, are not FAA certified, but I fly all the time in the wintertime. I just don't fly into known icing, which would be a thunderstorm, or you can be up at a really high altitude where it's cold, and if you descend down through the clouds, you're then going to pick up moisture on your on the airframe, and it'll accrete ice, and you don't want to get in conditions like that. But you can design the aircraft to have FAA certification, and all private jets are FAA certified. You either have bleed air that goes out onto the leading edges of the wings and all of your propulsion surfaces. So like propeller airplanes either have alcohol that gets slung out onto the props, or they've got boots where you actually inject hot air into the boots, and they'll open up and it breaks the ice off, and then they close back down again. Or they even have stuff now where they'll have like thumpers. They got these things that'll actually like vibrate the skin. They're called thumpers. Like HondaJet has that, where it's on one of their leading surfaces. It'll just, a high frequency will like vibrate the skin, and it will break the ice off of it. So there's different levels. There's VFR, like nice day, we're just going to go out and fly. VFR, it's the pilot's responsibility not to run into anybody. So, you want to have your eyes working for that. In an IFR flight, it's actually the controller that is responsible for you, and you do exactly what the controller says. And then they make sure that you're safe, that you don't run into other aircraft and have an aircraft, incursion. So yeah, I think that these aircraft they'll definitely be IFR certified, and they will be able to fly in the rain. So I don't see that's a problem.
That is exactly why we have Mark on the channel here. That is why you're a fan favorite, my guy. Guys, anyone that wants to ask a question, feel free. You can ask it to any one of us free, but I know who the questions will be targeted at. Mark is a private pilot and an aerospace engineer. So we have ACHR as a company ramping up parts in California. Are you talking about landing in water next to your boat?
I'm just throwing that out there, that I think it could be an operational capability someday to do that. So
we have Vice CNC. Good day, y'all. Still in both, but strategy seems to be divergent. I'll be in both in some capacity on the long time horizon. Vice CNC, big shout out, my guy. You follow every stream we do, and you know what? Some of his comments are cracking. I forget what comment you done yesterday on the Rocket Lab live stream, but it was funny as anything.
Really good guy right there.
Roddy Dublin says, "Hi guys, I've had time to think about the lawsuit. I've known about it for at least 2 years, but even knowing this, I still continue to increase my holding." I think what worried me with it was I always was aware of it, but it's the fact that last week the judge said they're willing to take it to trial. So then there's some substance behind that. Besides, the corporation hasn't been sued at least once in its life. As for the defense pivot, the way I see it, one income stream good, two income streams better. Yeah,
that's true. That's true.
Thinking about it, if they manage to do the two together, 100%, I believe in that. I just don't want them completely pivoting away from air taxis and having air taxis just on the side. Let them slowly ramp up and concentrate on defense. I don't know how to pronounce that name. Dentarius, is it? I totally agree with Syrian Palantir. Ask Trump when he arrives tonight. Not only that, the Abu Dhabi investments, Indonesian investments, they're growing with the US labeling them as a leader. Hopefully Joby get a first responder contract for emergency airlift operations. This is one of the big points Brandon said, this emergency responder and being able to transport precious cargo. It's why I want to get into hover so badly. I don't know why I never pulled the trigger back then. I think I was worried that they were so close for the listing, and Brandon did more or less reassure us. But I was worried at the time. Mark, you still adding hover, or are you just holding at the moment?
At this point, I got back into hover, and I'm holding it. Nice. I've got a 10,000 share position in hover right now.
And then, Dylan, have you ever added hover, or are you holding hover at the moment?
I have held hover. I did get out off the initial pop because, again, I just wanted to know. I thought Brandon was great coming on the channel. So that did bring some investor confidence, knowing that the CEO did want to come step up and speak to the retail investor. So just as the retail investor side of me, I'm like, that's awesome. Love to see that. Love the CEO that's willing to come on to a channel and go ahead and talk to the retail base that is spending their hard-earned money and putting that into the company. Because again, a lot of the times, I'll tell you, all of the times, any buy that I make is not moving the market. So it's just always good to get that information and really get that validation from the CEO, or for me, kind of have them pass like an authentication smell test, really kind of see what they're saying and how they're saying it. But no, not in hover right now, but I do have the hover tab as the third tab on the Excel sheet. So give me a little bit of time. I'm about 105 filings through Joby now, with about 300 more to go. But it's been really fun to start discovering Joby from the start through the filing side of it. And planning on doing the same with hover as well. But I definitely support all hover investors, and I hope that hover continues to make leaps and bounds. I hope hover continues to push towards success, as I think they have a great design, and would love to see them continue to push further into the industry too.
And on my take on hover is, I've said this before, I like Brandon. I love hover's design from a design perspective and how they have packaged their power plant systems. It's what makes sense from an aerodynamic standpoint. I would probably not have invested in hover if the entire space was not coming along. Like if there wasn't a Joby and there wasn't an ACHR and there was no, you didn't have Trump coming out with an executive's orders saying we want eVTOLs. If that whole space didn't exist and hover just showed up, it'd be like, that's a long shot.
Yeah.
But where I think hover is really going to springboard is, of course, Joby and ACHR are going to beat them to the finish line. But then when the world sees this new capability in human mobility, hover's design, I think, is actually going to rise to the top, and you're going to see investors flooding into their company. So that's why I'm a big bull of hover at this point, even though I would say hover is maybe getting in the starting block. I don't even think the gun has gone off for them yet, because they haven't even built, they've built their scale demonstrator, they've proved it, and now they're moving on to build their what would probably be their company test aircraft. It's not going to be a conforming aircraft for type design and certification. So they got a long ways to go. But once again, you look at their market cap, and like I said, it's going to cost them probably $1 billion, $500 million to $1 billion to get from a development standpoint where Joby and ACHR are at today. But there's plenty of money out there to come in and back them once people start to recognize how good a design that they have. And that's why, I'm in early, and honestly, when I get more powder, I'll be adding to that position. Like, I would love to be in a position where I'm holding 25 to 50,000 shares of Hover, and then just sit back and be like, all right,
if it happens, it
Let's go
happens.
for the
Yeah.
ride.
If it happens, if it happens. If it doesn't happen, hey, all right, there goes. I'm not buying
Best educated guesses.
I'm not buying the nice German vehicle, right? Well, you're not taking it with you anyway. So
That
what
is
we'll
true.
do, we'll all buy shares and we'll all just sit on the board just to admire Brandon.
There you go.
Yeah. So, but I like Brandon's approach too. Brandon went out and said, we are going out into the industry to get the very best. They hired, if you look at some of the people that they've hired, I think they pulled some people from Lilium to run their propulsion system or their power plant systems. And I think, their approach is, let's go ahead and spend the money up front, not to the same level, but let's kind of do what Meta is forced to do right now. Like, they have to go out and get the very best for AI. Brandon's kind of doing that same thing. Like, let's go ahead and spend the money up front, pay people good salaries, because you don't need, at this point where they're at, you don't need a really large team. You just need a really talented team. The SR-71 or the U-2 spy plane was not developed by an army of engineers. It was developed by a smaller group of highly, highly skilled engineers led by an unbelievably good leader. Now, granted, this was back in the 60s and stuff. Technology is a lot different. But my point is until they get into detailed design phase where they are actually, because once again, they can, on a paper napkin, or they don't even need to have designs to design, or they don't need to have anything related to the FAA or the certification authorities to go and build their full scale demonstrator. Now, they will have designs, but it's not like that. All of those engineering designs are going to be signed off by a designated engineering representative with the FAA, because it's not type conforming. So they can go and build an experimental aircraft to fully demonstrate all of the capabilities that they want to do. And they can do that with a skeleton crew, a highly, skilled skeleton crew, and be really successful. That's actually the most effective way to really get your design out there and get all your company data. You don't need a whole lot of people. It's not until, and I'll quit on this. It's not until they get into what's considered detailed design for their type conforming aircraft, and that's what you would take to TC. That's going to be years down the road. You need a lot more engineers for that, because then every drawing, every part needs to be signed off by, and every system needs to be tested. And the engineering needs to be signed off by designated engineering representatives to get conformity paperwork and acceptance by the FAA for those designs. And that's just a longer process. That's where it really takes a while, and a lot of investment has to come into it. So.
And I'm curious almost with Hover, and I was just looking up really quick. I'm not sure if we would know, but with Hover being a Canadian subsidiary, it just made me think really quick to the markets that Joby and ACHR have been tapping into. So we know that there's a lot of UAE, ACHR with the Ethiopian Launch Edition program, and ACHR with the Soracle, I think I'm pronouncing that correctly, the Japan partnership as well. And then you have Joby, who's been doing the demonstrations over in the Middle East, or on the Asia side as well. So sorry for fumbling those words. But curious, as Hover continues to develop, if maybe one or the amount of the top airlines in Canada, maybe we'll be bringing them on as kind of the eVTOL market or the leader in the eVTOL market for Canada as well. So that was something that just popped into. So it'll be interesting to see as Hover continues and the partnerships that come along with them as well. So that's exciting.
The day that happens, Mark becomes a millionaire because, my God, if a big airline comes in and says they're investing in Harvard, away we go. At that market cap.
Yeah.
Yeah. And unfortunately, it's what? There's Transport Canada. I think that's your one airline, but it doesn't have to be a Canadian airline. I mean,
sure.
You go back to when Bombardier, which is one of the biggest industrial companies and the only aerospace manufacturer in Canada, when they were developing the C series, their launch customer was, I believe, the Swiss, and the Canadians have a really, really good, and let it be known, the Canadian engineers, and especially engineers that come out of Bombardier, are very, very talented people. So they don't screw around. So Canada has a very, very has a very long history in aviation and a very prideful history in aviation. So I'm not going to downplay them being in Canada at all.
Sure.
And I think that they can get international. They could potentially have international companies come along. It'll be really interesting to hear Travis Brooks' opinion, since he is in the helicopter. Since he's done so many helicopter operations and ran operations, to get his opinion of the use cases for a hover, which they're saying we're not gonna need any infrastructure. Our aircraft will be able to, land at any airport or pull up any truck with some either 100 low lead or jet fuel, depending on what type of engine they go with it, and fill it up and off you go again.
Guys, do let me know if you want Travis Brooks, aka Let's Talk Joby on X. If you want him on Sunday with us, do let me know. I can reach back out to him and let him know to come Sunday. Jump into the comments. Is it something you want to see? But VACNC says, what do you guys think about China TCAB eVTOL deal with the UAE? Do you think there's some comparisons there happening to evaluate US versus Chinese aircraft? Mark, you worried about Chinese aircraft?
What is the TCAB? Is that their...
I'll try and get a picture of it up here.
Let me look.
Yeah, TCAB, so a Chinese electrical vertical takeoff and landing aircraft developer, secured a $1 billion deal with the UAE's Autocraft for 350, it says, E20 eVTOL units. And then just to go a little bit further, it says this agreement, one of the largest international urban air mobility orders to date, was signed at TCAB's Shanghai headquarters with high-level participation from both countries. This deal is part of a larger effort to establish the UAE as the leader in aerial transportation solution, and involves collaboration on pilot programs and commercial deployments across it says MENA capital region. So I just don't know what the MENA region is, but across the MENA region.
Yeah.
It's similar to S4, doesn't it?
A bit. It's got that forward boom, which again, you got those rotors that are just sitting out there. They look like they angle into the wind. So they've got that going for them. But so this is just it. It comes down to the regulatory bodies, if they allow them, if they accept those aircraft operating in that country. Mm-hmm. So if the UAE wants to accept it, then great. But I'll guarantee you're never going to see one of these flying in Europe, or you're never going to see one flying in the United States, because they're not going to go through the rigorous certification that the United States requires. You look at the Comac aircraft, which is what China has been developing for. If you guys could pull up a picture of, just look up Comac, CONC, Chinese Comac. It's an airliner that China's been developing they've been trying to get U.S. companies to support them, like Eaton Aerospace, to do their hydraulics and whatnot, things of that nature. But the COMAC is not certified in the U.S. It's not certified with the FAA, and it's not certified by EASA in Europe. So it's pretty much going to be just a regional airliner. It's for the same reason you don't see, Russian aircraft sold in the United States. It's because they don't go through our certification process. If the UAE wanted to accept their design, then yeah, it could compete. But I have to hand it to the United States and US or American and European ingenuity. We're really good. Like I'd be willing to bet that thing's going to probably be a lot louder. It's going to be much louder than an S4. So you get it into market, and this is just it. The cream rises to the top, literally. So, they may bring this thing to market, and it's cool. But then you put it next to an S4, and an S4, comes in and lands, and you can barely hear it. Mm-hmm. Everyone's going to want to get on the S4 then. And also, you look at all of the behind the scenes work that Joby is doing. Will this have a similar interface to where you can just get an Uber and be able to, how are you going to arrange to use this thing? I just think that I'm biased, obviously. I'm biased to American and European ingenuity. And I don't want to belittle the Chinese design efforts, but because they have advanced in really, really large, they've made huge achievements in engineering. But the beauty of this industry is it has a moat, and the moat is certification. If you're going to use these things commercially, you've got to go through certification. And anything coming out of China is not going to go through certification.
Well, and one thing too, I guess one thing that makes me excited about that as well is competition. So like you said, Mark, letting the cream, letting the cream rise to the top on that. But what that kind of signals to me, if all continues and that momentum continues to push forward, is the UAE is very interested in having eVTOLs in their
ecosystem.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. You guys, fill in the blank. In their ecosystem. And this takes me back to something I've probably said for a few, it's mid-summer now, so definitely for a few months, where in my lens through Archer, I feel like they have a aircraft that in their mind, they are ready to start producing and to sell to who is ready to buy. So that's where it was hard as they continued to take on the launch edition customers. I'm excited that they're taking on the launch edition customers. Again, it does worry me again where you have Archer Defense, you're still trying to get the FAA cert, and then again you're taking on launch edition customers, which means you're going to have that aircraft to deliver. But I have kind of leaned on maybe the eVTOL race a little bit, and who's going to make it first. Not necessarily Archer, Joby, EHang, or another company, but also to the country. Like, who's going to accept that mode of transportation first? And the UAE, so far to me, and what I've been able to see, has put a lot of forward momentum into bringing these aircraft into their ecosystem. And kind of also with that kind of a 1B, that's why I was curious if the UAE's interest in possible adoption of these eVTOLs was going to have that kind of push on the FAA or the US administration to kind of help speed up or fill in those loose gaps that we're not able to get these eVTOLs. Really, the regulations really laid out clearly for the eVTOLs to continue to develop and reach those point of certification. So it's interesting to see how many are going over and into UAE, and it'll be interesting to see if FAA and the US want to beat them to market as well.
You spoke about E-hang there, and Mark, I think you've touched on it before. They're not the most efficient design, are they?
I think E-hang is a meme stock. Like I think Joby and Archer are like Google and Palantir to E-hang being a meme stock. Memes, E-hang, at least the design that they currently have, it's just a really, really large flying drone. And so it is grossly inefficient. It's not going to have any speed. It's not going to fly on a wing. So yeah, it's cool, and it can be it can be a really cool experience. But but my God, that thing would be so loud. It would be so loud and obnoxious. Yeah, yeah. And granted, yeah, they may be flying them all over the place. And once again, in China, you may bring them in someplace around, into other countries. I don't think you're ever going to see one fly in the U.S. Well, it could fly in the
around anyway.
It can fly in the U.S., but it's going to fly under an experimental ticket. So. I mean, there was a video at one point. See if you can find it. This guy, I think he was in Europe somewhere. He basically built a huge drone, and it was around a bathtub. And he flew this thing. Like, he sat in the bathtub, and it took off and flew. And like, I think he went and bought like some bread at the store or something. This is no shit. And that's basically like, the experimental version of an E-hang, in my opinion. So let me see if I can find it.
Right. Terry says E-hang is a great amusement ride.
Exactly.
You know what? We'll all hire an E-hang and just chase each other around like bumper cars.
That's right.
Christian says maybe they can make some larger ones like bus size, might bring the ticket price down and high travel areas. I think you were talking about this, Mark. Was it yesterday or it could have been on Sunday, where you believe you will start seeing larger versions of the S4 and the Midnight, wasn't it?
So they will. You do have the ability to size up, but you're not going. I don't think you'll ever see what produces. There's I know that there's. With the size of the rotor, you would have to add more and more rotors. And as you add more weight, you're going to actually, it's not going to be a 1-for-1 it would probably be a 1-for-1. So think about it. Like if you went right now, I don't know what the max takeoff weight of a Joby is, but it's probably, let's say it's 8,000 pounds or something. Sure. If you were to go to 16,000 pounds, which is not that much bigger of an airframe if you're going to double the size, double the payload. So now you're going from 4 to 8 people. Well, now you're going to have to go to 16 rotors.
Okay.
And that it almost becomes the juice isn't worth the squeeze at that point.
Yeah.
I think the way you can get around that is you have to increase the disc area of the rotor. Like a Sikorsky. Yeah. Like you look at a Sikorsky helicopter, the damn thing can lift like 60,000 pounds. It's crazy, the lift capability of that helicopter. It would pick up, 8 Jobys, or it'll pick up a Humvee. It's ridiculous what these aircraft can lift. But the reason they can lift so much is because the area of that rotor system is so large. If you were to take all of the fact that it's one large rotor, it's that enormous wing spinning through the air that's allowing you to have so much lift. As you start decreasing down your rotor size, you start losing efficiency. So then you make up for it by it has to spin a lot faster. And by spinning a lot faster, it gets a lot louder. That's why, like, you look at an F-35 Stovall, it's crazy loud because you're spinning that lift fan at an enormous speed. So I think there will be. I would like to see them maybe, if you could get to like an 8-passenger, that would be really cool. And obviously that's much more scalable in terms of cost. But I don't think you're ever going to see where you're going to have like a regional airliner taking off vertically and off it goes. I don't know if there's anybody on the chat that has seen concepts that is proving me wrong. I would love to see those concepts. But
and then Christian White says, how about bird strikes? Would the propellers be able to take them?
Yep. So one of the things is you look at, and this will probably be a design you have to demonstrate. I don't think with open rotors you have to show a blade off. But like in my airplane, if I lost a propeller, if one of the propellers came off and now I had that, the center of mass is not spinning around the center or the axis of rotation. And it's, this thing has now become a huge vibration generator. It'll rip the engine right off the firewall. It's extremely violent. Now where Joby has the advantage and where I'm sure Archer does as well, their propellers are extremely light. Like you watch some of the videos where they're interviewing, where they go to the factory and the guy's holding the propeller in his hand and he's just like, oh my gosh, this blade is so ridiculously light. So if you have a blade off event, it's probably going to be a non-event just because there's not so much mass that's being shifted off the center axis of rotation. And in terms of a bird strike, birds are very, very, honestly, if I'm going to do a bird strike, I kind of want it to hit the prop because the prop's going to just chew the bird to pieces and it's not going to be a big deal. A really bad day on a bird strike is if you're flying along at 150 to 200 miles an hour and the bird hits your tail without hitting anything else, and it rips the tail off the airplane. And now you got that's a really bad day.
Wow.
So fortunately, the tail's in the rear and it'll hit the wing and it'll hit other things. Or just it missing the prop and coming through and hitting the windscreen. And then it's going to come in and it's going to break the windscreen and come in and hit you as well. But these aircraft, they'll be able to take bird strikes. And they're designed for it. It's a nothing burger. It's just part of the development program. And again, like I think they were saying like Joby's props spin at about 450 RPMs. Your standard engine on a certified airplane the prop is spinning at 2,500 RPMs. So you're saying it's spinning 5 times greater than what the props on a Joby are spinning. And the reason Joby can do that is because of the design of their propeller, and then these electric motors can produce so much more torque than what an internal combustion engine can produce. So,
and then It says, Joby #1, bro, you'll be waiting forever. Phil says, time is money. S4 from Area 51. Where is EHang built? EHang is built in China, my guy. Has a 7-seat tops out, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if it takes you from A to B for cheap, are we behind in the stream? I think that is to do with the loudness of the Chinese aircraft. I don't know, this sounds so sheltered, but I would just be more confident getting into a US built aircraft if I had the choice.
Mm-hmm.
Guys, anything else for me that is absolutely wild for the week? Dylan, you wanted to say about the short interest, didn't you?
Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Liam. So yeah, just wanted to go over the show notes real quick, because just always want to try to come prepared for the community. So yeah, just wanted to update. And again, to keep in mind right now, these can be volatile stocks. There can be uh, easy 5% intraday moves inside Archer, where you're going to open and close at generally around the same open and close price, but you're going to have those intraday moves of around 5%. So again, whether you're trading, long-term investing, you can keep an eye on those if you're the day trader. And again, do your homework to study up on when the volatility is right to jump in for you. And again, as the long term, again, you will see volatility in both ranges as they go up and down. But we did take a look into the short interests on both of the companies. And what we had gathered was right now we are looking at about a 14% short interest on Archer, and Joby having just under about an 8% short interest as well. I did find a little bit of news as accurate to what I found, where it looked like that there was around a 43% climb month over month for Archer in the short interest. And actually, to kind of tail off, I'm sorry, I don't remember the chat member that asked it, but there was a question asked on Sunday regarding the high option um, the high open interest through the option chain that was going for, I think they said maybe about 120 days out. So to that, I was kind of thinking of some of the executive orders that may have been signed, and if anybody was maybe playing into some of those timetables. But also, it's been discovered that there is a lot of open option, a lot of open option contracts for Archer for the third Friday of August. So that's going to be following the earnings. So again, not financial advice or anything like that, but if anybody is into options trading, feel free to just dive in and take a look at the options chain that's going on in the eVTOL space, as it looks like a lot of the put volume is being taken off of Archer. And then there's a lot of interest being put towards the $20 strike price coming about the third Friday of August. So some things that can play into that is obviously any of the news that may come off of the earnings call. If anybody behind the scenes has any information on just anything that would be released by US Gov or contracts or anything down the line, could play into why somebody may open an option contract at that strike at that point in time as well. But again, for some of the volatility and along with the news of the lawsuit, Archer did break above the Bollinger Band. So again, that's going to be like a volatility band to anybody either newer to investing or just kind of the charts. So some of the technical parts can play into the price action as well. And after it kind of broke through the Bollinger Band, it did snap back to the 20-day or to the 20 simple moving average, and has kind of consolidated right around there. So there was some of so you can kind of look at it through a few different lenses. You can look at it where there was some news on the lawsuit, and then you had the news about Stellantis maybe gearing away from the hydrogen program that they were having. I did look into that just a little bit, and just from what I was seeing, there was nothing specific that was speaking to Archer using hydrogen as their secondary fuel for the hybrid. Anything I found was speaking to them using a conventional airplane fuel to be the part of the hybrid model. So more to come of that. But yeah, through the volatility, through the technicals, some of the information that came out on Archer couldn't be something that drives the price down. But we did find that we reached our support range, still in the $10.50 to $11 mark. So we'll continue to do research over the weekend, and check back in on Sunday, because those are always nice shows. Because then again, we can kind of update on any of the current eVTOL news that has came out. And again, Sundays are great because they're definitely an open forum. Love when the chat jumps in, definitely gives their thoughts and opinions. Get a lot of questions on Sundays from the chat as well, so that's awesome. So yeah, if there's anything that you feel like we missed here today, definitely drop it in the chat after the video. Feel free to reach out to me on X. I'll definitely respond to you personally as soon as possible. And I'm not a very popular guy on there, so I wish probably shouldn't have too much trouble responding. And yeah, we're just going to keep our eyes on the eVTOL market and see what progressions are being made, and obviously try to give you any updates on if anything's regressing. But just yeah, proud to be a part of the eVTOL retail base right now, and looking to have a healthy, happy weekend. And to all, I hope you guys have a great Friday night and have the best weekends ahead of you, and hope to see everybody back on Sunday.
Yeah, I want to just quickly share this.
Yeah.
I found something interesting. Joby within the last 3 months has a insider purchase of 367.3 million. Jumping across, looking at ACHR, look, you have 5 insiders selling at 4.51. That doesn't worry me too much. Chat, do let me know though. Is this anything to do with the Toyota? It's an insider purchasing. I can't seem to work out where this insider trades came from. Mark, do you have any idea?
I don't know. I would think something of that level does it say the date?
Yeah,
it doesn't on this.
It doesn't. All right. Because if you go back and just look at the volume trades on Joby, when they got the investment from Toyota, that was a really, really large spike back, when it was like $7, $8. You see this huge spike, and then the volume increases after that. Mm-hmm. And I bet you that's probably the Toyota investment.
And a quick one, yeah, because you mentioned that, Mark. I just, on a quick search, Toyota Motor Corp purchased 49,701,790 shares for the estimated of the 250 million. So again, that did come up under the quick search for the insider buys, and again, that was June 30th of 25. So, not too far off on the date range there. So definitely Toyota grabbed a lot of shares in that, and maybe something just to think about. And going into Sunday, just as Toyota continues to up their ownership with inside of Joby, just curious how the Joby investors are feeling as Toyota as that manufacturing partner, having maybe a little bit more voting power at the table. So maybe just a conversation to continue on the later dates of the shows.
All right. Is this our e-hang? This is what you get if you fly in an e-hang. He's driving a BMW. He's probably in Europe, I bet.
Oh, wow.
Check this out. This guy's my hero.
Oh, he actually gets in this?
Yeah.
See, I had a vision that he was sitting in the bathtub driving the drone from the bathtub. I was like, oh, that's a nice way to get some food to the house. Oh, my God.
This brother gets off, takes off in this thing.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Look at his crash pad. It's some foam on the bottom. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That does not pass FAA regs, everyone.
It's cool. I might have the shakes getting in and for the ride. But super cool that somebody can be as creative and innovative and actually get that thing in the air right there.
Yeah. I mean, kudos to the guy for building it. And also kudos for him to almost winning the Darwin Award.
Yeah, seriously, right? That is amazing, Mark. And I'm really glad you shared that. That is an awesome video to see.
The best part is watch. He goes to I think he just goes to a grocery store and gets some bread.
Oh my God. And then there it goes, land. And also, as just an aside, not in the sense of trying to promote our channel, but you are going to have as the interest in Archer grows, you're going to have a lot more search queries into Archer and into Joby. And you may have some people with higher subscriber channels starting to make some videos on Archer and Joby. I had saw one, I'm not going to say the name of the person, it was about 38 minutes long, but basically they read the description of the company and really made it seem like Joby was going to be having an S4 land in your driveway, and that's how you were going to depart to the airport. So, definitely, want everybody to have the best knowledge moving forward, as we're always going to present the most accurate and factual knowledge that we know. But again, as you see a lot of the investment channels starting to come out with the eVTOL information, just make sure you do your own due diligence as well, and make sure it sits right with you on the thoughts and ideas that the creators are having. So love that is gaining the interest in the retail investment space across YouTube and X's and all the platforms. But again, we're here to give you the most accurate and updated information. And yeah, it's going to be a great ride. And, again, we're in development phase. So we're going to have days of good news. We're going to have days of bad news, green days, red days. But again, if we stay on top of this and the companies keep producing, no pun intended, but the skies can be the limit. Could be the limit. So, we keep pushing
I just
forward.
realized I was muted throughout that whole video being played. I was commenting away as I was going along, and then I looked down. It was only when you said my name, I was like, "What?"
That was good. We could chat. We could chat while the video was playing. That was good.
Guys, what I want to know: would you fly on the poor man's E-hang, or we could call it the rich man's E-hang? I don't think them things are too great, but yeah, guys, do let me know. On the way out, do smash the like button. And also, we are growing. We nearly got 3,000. Can't believe that.
Awesome.
Smash the subscribe.
We should try to get to 3,000 before earnings season's over. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
Yeah, like if you're on the channel, tell your friends. Let's grow this thing.
If everyone here gets one friend to do it, do you know what? It'll go a long way. Guys, my name's Liam, one of the host bros here. Here, my good friends, my co-hosts, my brothers. I'm here with Mark Berry and Dylan Rogers. Guys, give them a shout out in the comments after the stream. And guys, do chat with us after the stream.
Yeah.
We'd be in there for the next few hours just having a chat with each other. So do jump into the comments, have a chat with us. Right, guys, until Sunday. We'll see you then.